Must be good to be home again, sir.
Well, we'll see about that.
Good afternoon. I'm here to see Assistant Director Harold Cooper.
Tell him it's Raymond Reddington.
It really is him.
You must have many questions. So let's begin with the most important one. Why I'm here. From this point forward, there's one rule. I speak only with Elizabeth Keene.
Agent Keene, what a pleasure.
Why involve me? I'm nobody. It's nothing special about me.
Oh, I think you're very special.
That's why we're all here, of course. It's called the blacklist. I'm talking about the criminals who matter. The ones you can't find because you don't even know they exist.
And I'm supposed to believe you.
No, of course not. I'm a criminal.
Why you?
He thinks I can be easily manipulated. The man obviously doesn't know me very well.
He's on the move, heading westbound.
I'm gonna make you famous, Lizzie.
Hi everyone and welcome once again to Geek Fest Rants. My name is Carlos Perone and today joining me I have Tony. Say hi, Tony.
Hi.
And Steve. Hello, Steve.
Gentlemen.
Today we are going to be tackling...
That was with Charles Emerson Winchester of you.
Oh, wow. That's a blast from the past.
I couldn't quite do the Boston accent.
Okay.
Well, speaking of old TV shows, we're going to be talking about
New TV
shows and
nice segue,
current
Carlos.
TV shows. This is the long-awaited fall preview, which we're already in the fall. So
It's
Then
a
it's
full
not a
review.
preview.
That's
Review.
No more.
review.
It's a review.
But, yeah, I mean, some shows we haven't even watched yet, so you guys...
And may never watch.
I know.
But you'll mention them anyway.
I will, because we have a combination of a couple of new shows that are interesting, and some actually have not started yet.
A few.
Mm-hmm. And let's take a quick look to see if any of them are worthy of our time. You know, most of us, or some of us at least, like to sample these shows and then drop them like there's no tomorrow.
That's me.
And sometimes we kind of stick with them. Who
Yes.
knows? And sometimes we start dropping older shows that we were watching before we just cannot keep up with anymore. But let's begin with one of the biggest, not only promoted shows, but genre show of this season, and that is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Marvel's
Agents of
Talk about a
S.H.I.E.L.D.
long title. Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about it?
Well, basically, it's kind of a spin-off of the Avengers. Agent Coulson, who was killed in the Avengers, somehow is resurrected and is now leading this S.H.I.E.L.D. team. They've just come together. There's a special ops agent, a weapons expert, there's a couple of scientists, a computer hacker they bring into the mix. And basically, they're just kind of traveling around the globe on this pretty snazzy airplane, fighting crime, and it was definitely one of the most eagerly awaited shows of the season. I agree. I started watching it because I was a comic book geek growing up. I have to say, starting off, I've been a little bit underwhelmed by some of the scripts and the characters. So far, I thought up until the episode, The Girl in the Flower Dress, which I thought the team started to gel, the personalities started to come out. Up until that point, I thought everything felt fairly rote. The characters, you didn't really get to know them that well. They didn't show much personality. You didn't get to really know their backstories. And, maybe Lost and everything has made me so used to backstories that I want to know why these people do what they do and how they wound up where they are. And Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't really spend the early days giving you that much information. But again, I think as it's moving on, things improved for me for the Girl in the Flower Dress episode, which is when everybody thought Sky, who was the computer hacker, betrayed them. And that betrayal actually brought out real emotion from people, which before everybody was just kind of flat, I thought.
Very much so. Yeah, I agree with everything Tony said. I have nothing to add. Now, well, what I would add is, since this is under the auspices of Joss Whedon, but not aside from directing the pilot, and I don't know, maybe he co-wrote the pilot, I'm not sure. And it's an ensemble piece, which he's very well known for, but it lacks the snappy patter
of Buffy,
of Angel, of Firefly, of anything, of Avengers, anything that he puts a pen to, his characters, they really fly off the page. These, as Tony said, these characters are very flat, and I'm not saying every line of dialogue has to be zippy, funny, quippy kind of stuff, but that helps. With Avengers, you had some real heavy scenes, but they'd be punctuated with humor. And as Tony said, it's very rote, it's very flat in terms of, I guess what I was hoping to see is the S.H.I.E.L.D. that I grew up with was Nick Fury and the ex-Howling Commandos as the primary agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
And, given the way the Marvel Cinematic Universe has developed, you have Nick Fury as played by Sam Jackson, and the Howling Commandos were in World War II, and one would assume they're passed on or very, very old now. So you're not going to see that. So that was one thing I was disappointed. I mean, I kind of knew ahead of time that they weren't going to do it that way. S.H.I.E.L.D. was also kind of had its roots in the 60s and the James Bond era and everything. And I guess I was hoping for some flourishes, some touches of that. And
I mean, it's its own entity, but they can still make it better. I mean, honestly, the best part of the pilot for me was seeing the Whedon alum Ron Glass show up and J. August Richards, who played Gunn in Angel. And he was actually the best developed character in that whole pilot. He actually had something invested trying to, save his son's life and his own life. And that was the emotion I was lacking in the show, which, again, I think is starting to show up.
Yeah, that was very powerful.
How does a non-comic fan like Carlos feel about the show?
Well, he just likes it because he likes everything.
No, not exactly. That's a good point you asked, Tony, because on a previous episode that we've done, we actually reviewed the first episode just by itself, just the pilot. And for a non-comic book person, the only thing I have to go on really is the movies.
Okay.
And especially the Avengers, obviously. And I think that might be a little difficult for somebody like myself because, even though it's called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you're expecting Avengers. You want more of that connection, but it's easy to forget the fact that the show is not about superheroes. It's about the agents that work within S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
But they constantly drop references to the superheroes and this and that. So
and they're dealing with superpowered beings.
Right. Some of the major baddies that we've seen so far are full-blown people with powers. But again, one of the things that we mentioned in the previous episode was like, how do you not make the show dip into heroes? If you remember, something like that, a TV version of a superhero type of environment.
Right.
Well, Heroes, if I remember, was always a little bit heavy. They never had like the zippy, fun Buffy type vibe. It always seemed a lot heavier.
Very
and I think
heavy.
this show is going for a lighter vibe. It's just taking them a little while to get there.
Yeah.
Right. I was surprised also how fast they gave us Samuel Jackson.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
figured they were
cool.
going to hold him for the season finale.
And they didn't promote it at all.
No.
It was just there.
I think they wanted to just get it out of the way and say, look, we can do this at any time. And I've said this before when we've talked about other comic book related shows like Smallville or Arrow. As a comic book fan, for me, whenever they delve into the mythology of the comics, it draws me in even more. And I'm not sure if it was the second or perhaps the third episode where they dealt with his villain name was Graviton. He was an Avengers villain. And I'm watching the episode and I'm like, this name, the John Smith, I forget his name. I'm like, this means something to me. And I wikied it and I'm like, Graviton. I'm like, oh, wow. So, knowing that at any time they can delve into the comics and not just with villains, with heroes as well. I mean, that's been something that's been bandied about. I mean, you will probably see at a certain point the B-list, the C-list, these heroes that are just never going to get their own movies, or maybe someone who you might introduce in S.H.I.E.L.D. and bring into a future movie at a certain point. But they also do touch on J. August Richards. His plot had to do with the Extremis virus from Iron Man 3.
Yeah.
That was, so I like it when that makes me happy.
That's a little inside baseball, though. I think the general populace will...
I don't care about the general populace, Tony.
Well, as the point that I made in an article, which you can find linked to on GeekFest Rant's website, I think a show like Person of Interest did a much better job early on establishing the team. Granted, it took them a while, but it was like they all had very specific personalities from the beginning. They were engaging as characters, and to me, that's what S.H.I.E.L.D. needs to... They need to focus more on the team gelling, and maybe it's part of it is just the the scripts have been a little lackluster.
Maybe.
The dialogue, when they make jokes, I haven't found them that funny.
And that goes back to Whedon not doing it. His brother, Jed Whedon, is the lead guy on this. I mean, Whedon is under contract at Marvel to do many things, not just Avengers 2. And I think he's like, I know he did a lot of script doctoring on Thor, Dark World, and I know that he's probably going to have to come in at a certain point with S.H.I.E.L.D. Because when I look at those characters, I see them and I'm like, oh, pretty young 20-somethings. Yay. I'm getting to the age where I'm like, not interested. When I think of the old ensembles, even though, Buffy and Angel, they were kind of young and
they
good
were
looking.
all young. We were younger then,
We
so
were
they
younger
didn't seem
then,
that
too.
young, but...
A better example might be Firefly, where it was these
older.
Older.
It was a mishmash.
It was a
yeah.
mishmash.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, because some people have responded very poorly to Chloe Bennett, who plays Skye on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I happen to like the character. Again, I think she needs to be written a little better, but I think she's evolved. And that's going back to Person of Interest. I'm shocked at how much hate that Sarah Shahi is getting as Shaw on that show. Apparently, some people despise her.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
And I don't really get it, because they're saying she's redundant. I guess they're saying they already have Reese, who's kind of this cool... But he's not really a killer, and he also shows much more emotion than she has displayed in the past, so...
Well, let me just say, before we delve into
POI?
existing shows, let's stick to the new batch. And let me throw another one at you that I know Tony is in love with. Sleepy Hollow.
Haven't seen it. Sorry.
Well, I watched the first 2 episodes and dropped it.
It's an out there type of show. I would consider it more in the realm of supernatural and grim.
Well, isn't it supposed to be a little
environment.
bit tongue-in-cheek? The fact that this guy from 200 years ago is...
Well, they
mean,
definitely kind of, the fish out of water thing
they
has
play with
definitely
that.
been played on.
And I'll tell you what's good is the fact that when they do there's a lot of like a flashbacks type of deal where he remembers what's happening on his time. That is a good production value on that stuff. It's not like a couple of actors dressed in funky little costumes. They take it very serious, but it's very supernatural serious. So that's pretty good.
And flashbacks develop character, don't they?
Well,
right, Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Some of our other shows. But there's one thing about this show, and now there's a mythology with the show, and obviously most shows now, they like to have the formula of the regular story and the mythology that links all these episodes together. The mythology of this show is going to be very, very thick and very like,
drawn out.
Okay. It's not only the Headless Horseman, it's more of an evil plot.
Yeah.
You know,
Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse,
all
right?
of them. It's like, all right, I get it. And you know what? To me, it's not really that interesting. I just like the show a little bit. But Steve, why don't you tell us something new that's about to develop in this show that might draw you back in?
John Noble is joining the cast.
Oh, I did read that.
So I shouldn't say that I've dropped it.
And I haven't even sampled it yet, so John Noble would.
And I saw a coming soon clip that showed him. He's got short hair. It looks weird.
Maybe I guess I shouldn't say that I've completely closed the door on it. But my problem with it, and I've said this to Carlos before, is that yes, I found the premise intriguing, but it then immediately, like episode 2, it immediately goes into like this Law and Order supernatural unit,
it's the freak of the week.
Yeah, and I'm like,
so it's X-Filesy in that sense.
Yeah, very much
but it
so.
sticks to supernatural. It's not UFOs, at least not yet anyway. But it tries to stick to the supernatural elements of whatever they can come up with.
And I watched plenty of procedurals, and I felt like, you know what, it just turned me off right away. And it also had some really great actors in the pilot, like Clancy Brown and John Cho and
right away
dead, and I'm like, oh.
Red shirts.
Yeah, exactly. So I have to say, though, with, we've said this many times, if certain actors join shows or, come to a certain, it's like POI, with Michael Emerson, it's like, I'm going to watch this show because of him.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And now John Noble, I mean,
I wonder if that was meant all along, or I wonder if they realized they need. I mean, it's only
the show was a huge hit. It's probably the biggest.
It got renewed
show
for the second season pretty quickly.
It's probably I think it's the biggest. It's the biggest hit.
It does take some shows a little while to kind of find their feet. Even Fringe at the beginning, I didn't think was it was
true.
Trying to find itself.
True.
Well, let me throw another new one at you. See if you guys are watching The Blacklist.
I have not seen The Blacklist.
I am watching it, and that is a good segue because the only reason I decided to watch it was James Spader, who I love, not because he's Ultron. I've loved him. I think he's a phenomenal actor, and I actually watched Boston Legal with him and William Shatner, and he's
The Office.
The Office, yeah.
He was a psychopath in The Office.
Not because of him, but I just think he's a fantastic actor, and I find the premise of the show interesting. It does have his character has a bit of a Hannibal Lecter vibe.
Oh my God! It was like he's more of a Hannibal Lecter than the existing Hannibal Lecter show.
But he's not a cannibal.
No, but he's got that. And here's something we were talking about a few minutes ago: B Story. This is a show that the actual B Story, the mythology of who he is and how they're delivering it to us in little bits and pieces, it actually interests me. I'm like, it's not like, yeah, whatever, B Story, who cares? No. This is a good mystery of who this guy is and what he does.
Is that because of the writing or because Spader has the charisma to make it interesting?
Both. It's got to be both. He's very charismatic.
Because again, you talk about these shows with these premises that it's the weekly thing and then there's the arc.
The arc.
Yeah.
And I guess...
But it's a very thick arc. I mean, everything's... The lead's husband is part of that arc.
Yes.
She's part of the arc. She doesn't even know it yet. We don't even know
they're throwing everything like the kitchen sink at you. He could be her father, which I think is a red herring. But, I mean, there are so many theories already as to who he is, what his relationship to her is. And I am finding it very intriguing.
And he's such a good actor. And he's always in control. It's like we have not seen him lose anything yet in terms of he has that Hannibal Lecter thing that I'm always a step ahead of you.
Well,
I know what you're going to do.
But
and we know he has no limits. He does whatever needs to be done in whatever manner without having to explain himself.
He's not emotional.
Right. Tony, I'm telling you.
I think that's worth your time.
There's so little time.
I know.
I know we're going to talk about Once Upon a Time, but what about Once Upon a Time in Wonderland? Has anyone tried this?
I've seen the first episode, and I liked it. I mean, I just haven't gotten around to watching the second and third episodes yet, which is what we're up to when we're taping this. I thought the premise was I liked the premise. I mean, I liked the rabbit, and it seems almost a little lighter in tone. There seem to be more jokes, at least in the pilot, than there were in Once Upon a Time.
I haven't tried it, so you're on your own.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
Fine.
No.
Okay.
You said it's not as dark as Once Upon a Time, or it just has more lighter?
Well, again, based on the pilot, it had a few more jokes. It seemed a little funny. And then again, but it had its heaviness too. I mean, Alice is basically an adult now, and her father doesn't believe her adventures in Wonderland, so he sends her to this sanitarium, and they want to do some kind of procedure on her brain to make her forget. So that's plenty dark, but... she goes back to Wonderland to find her true love, who she presumed was dead, and then Saeed from Lost is there as a villain. And
it never hurts.
I like the actress who plays Alice. The voice of John Lithgow is the White Rabbit, which is kind of cool. So he's got a lot of personality just in his voice.
Yeah.
The actor who plays the Knave of Hearts looks familiar, but I can't place him. But he's good too. So
he's a British actor who was on the UK version of Being Human. He played a werewolf in the last 2 seasons of it. Okay. He's a very good actor. Soka?
Yeah, that could be it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I plan on sticking with it for now. I've read the ratings are not great, but I like it enough to stick with it.
Do you think it's too much to have 2 shows linked
at
the same time?
I think any spin-off sort of is a diluted version of the original,
Because you started and then stopped watching it?
Well,
Steve?
there's only been 2 episodes I've seen and a third that's on my DVR at the moment.
Okay.
And as I said with Sleepy Hollow, I'm getting very quick with the axe these days. But
no pun intended.
Wonderland, I was a little kind of taken aback because it's like a combination of Alice in Wonderland and Aladdin.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And they're like,
that's true.
And it's really a love story. I mean, if this is going to be it for 7 seasons, how do they sustain this premise?
See, I don't know if this is correct, but I read somewhere that they're just doing this for 1 season.
Okay.
So maybe if that's correct, and I don't know that it is, I mean, maybe they would take them just 1 season to tell this story, unless then they would, kind of jump into the main series somehow.
Merge them?
Or maybe every year do a different...
Yeah. It is connected to the
main series.
The main series, the
it
mother
started out
series.
that way.
Yeah. There is a connection there. But I don't think we're ever going to see the Mad Hatter, Sebastian Shaw, who's, they've referenced him, but I don't think, he's more or less a guest star on Once Upon a Time, comes and
Once
goes.
in a while. Sebastian Stan.
Sebastian Stan.
Sebastian Shaw was the Hellfire Club, right?
Yeah, he was.
Wasn't he Anakin Skywalker?
Anakin Skywalker, too. Yeah, he played the Jedi.
Oh, okay.
Mixing my genres. I'm getting old.
Let me ask you something else. A show that hasn't even started yet that they keep promoting, Almost Human.
The J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, I'll probably give it a shot.
And if the people
who McCoy in it, Judge Dredd.
That doesn't mean anything.
The Fringe people worked on it, right? Fringe people worked on it. So
a heavy, thick sci-fi.
Is it Orsi and Kurtzman?
It could be.
who I despise.
Oh, again, for those credentials, I would give it a try.
Yeah,
they're promoting the heck out of it.
Of course they are. Well, I'll try it. Most genre things, I'll give it a whirl.
Any more new shows, or are we back to
returning? I'll tell you about one I just watched maybe 2 hours ago, the premiere of Dracula.
Yeah. Oh.
I know it already had like really bad reviews, and who knows which way the show's going to go. It's really difficult to tell. Talk about an anti-hero, because we've done a show about anti-heroes not too long ago.
Yes.
I'm not sure what we're supposed to think of. I mean, he's the bad guy, but it seems like he's trying to fight even bigger bad guys.
Isn't he partnered with Van Helsing?
He's partnered with Van Helsing.
Yeah.
And they're going after like the Society of Dragons or something. I forget what the name of it is.
Yeah.
Which are like industrialists and he's almost like a Thomas Edison type of
Who, Dracula?
Dracula. He's experimenting with wireless electricity and stuff like. It's really weird the way they're going. But I'll tell you the few things that so far from that first episode that I'm going to come back for. The reason I'm coming back for the design, the look of the show is very authentic. Very well done, and the music. I love the music in the show. Very different.
Now, let me just ask you, because this is what I got from the promos. To me, it seemed like either an homage or a ripoff to Coppola's Dracula with Gary Oldman. And the whole like romance.
Well, I think
from that.
No matter what you do, you're going to get to that's going to always happen because that's part of the story.
Sure.
And because it takes place around that same period of time, this is like the 1890s
Victorian
or
London,
something.
yeah.
In London, they even at a point they hinted to the fact that Jack the Ripper was not a real killer and that it was a staged vampire thing that they were trying to cover up with a murder and blah blah blah.
That's interesting.
So they're doing interesting things. I'm still not sure who we're rooting for in this show, and it's only the first episode, so it's enough to at least keep me interested.
Okay. I don't think I'm going to give it a try. It's too much.
Now, going back to older shows that I know Tony's just
Jumping
salivating. He's like,
There's only 2 more shows.
Tell us a little bit about Person of Interest, Tony.
Is that your favorite show at the moment, Tony, would you say?
No,
I don't mean ever. I just mean like at the moment.
No, I mean, it's hard for me to pick. I mean, I like Once Upon a Time probably better than Person of Interest. I like The Middle, but, in terms of geek shows, Person of Interest and Once Upon a Time are it. I like the way they've started season 3. You have Amy Acker returning now as Root, and she was in an asylum, and it seems the team seems to be gelled like more so than before. Like I said before, some people despise Sarah Shahi as Samantha Shaw.
I don't understand that at all.
I don't get it either. People apparently resent the fact that she's taking attention away from Finch and Reese, from their relationship. But I think it's kind of nice having somebody else in the mix.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to do something with Reese's story, too, because he's kind of like, well, I think both he and their backstories are known, and now they need to somehow evolve in the future as characters to do something. But so now they've brought Shahi in as, for her character, because she's got a whole wealth of backstory that they need to develop. But even with Carter now, she seems to be much more developed character. She's not been knocked back down to. Did you see this past week's episode?
I did.
Did you?
No, I'm behind. So you guys
deal
with this.
The last episode I thought was great, both in terms of Carter and
Samantha Shaw.
Both of them had
great
really
stories.
meaty stuff going on.
Yeah, and the whole HR story, that's the mythology of Person of Interest,
Exactly.
the whole HR thing.
The arc.
And it kind of came to a new level with this past episode we saw. So I liked it. They all have a nice energy together. I still feel bad for Fusco. He doesn't really show up that much.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he's a member of the team. And then you have last season Carter helped Elias escape from jail to save his life. And he's out there now. And there's just like so many different story threads, and like I said, the last episode, the one with the lawyer wife who has having her husband killed, but it was really a plot. To me, that was like one of the worst episodes of the show I ever saw. But it picked up again with this past one where you get Shaw's background and about Carter's HR attack. So
at first I was a little leery, by the end of the second season, seeing the team grow so much, I was like, this is going to be too much. I thought at first, but they all are interesting, intriguing characters, and I like the fact that, and I'm sure you like this, Tony, too, is that everyone in the mix here is seeking some kind of redemption. And Shaw seems to be like she'll be the toughest nut to crack. She's very angry and almost Aspergery, like in the fact that she doesn't have, doesn't seem to feel, doesn't seem to have emotion. But they'll be peeling back the layers. I mean, this last episode where we got her initial backstory, whatever you want to call it, really opened the door for a lot more stuff with her.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a show that consistently, I mean, yeah, I agree with you on that one episode, but generally speaking, whether it's an arc show or just a
mystery of the week.
A mystery of, exactly. I was going to say freak of the week, but mystery of the week.
That's grim.
They're all solid for the most part. And, you have these characters like Elias, Enrico Colantoni, who I love. I think he's a fantastic actor. And the other actor who's Robert John Burke, who's the HR guy.
Is that who it is? Yeah.
I love him. And the last episode, that was him and Reese going at it. I'm just on a visceral level. That's something I wanted to see for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
it's a bit like comfort food. You kind of know what you're getting when you...
But it's really good comfort food. No. It's not like Law and Order comfort food. There's really something behind it.
And in a way, that's why to me in the article, I compared it to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. because in a way, they are kind of this own little team without the superpowers and stuff. But they're a team just like S.H.I.E.L.D. So,
well, if this is your second favorite show, let's talk about your favorite show.
Once Upon a Time.
Where are we?
Season 2, I thought, went a little bit...
This is all Peter Pan.
Was a little bit here and that, a little bit hit and miss. Season 3, I like the Neverland thing. It seems much more focused. Peter Pan as a villain is interesting to me. I mean, I thought whoever the actor they hired to play him is doing a good job of coming across as sinister. You're getting even more layers of Rumpelstiltskin's background. Last year, I felt like between Rumpelstiltskin and Regina, a lot of them, they were just kind of retreading the same ground. It's we moved them forward, now let's move them back to stretch out for the season. This season, I like the renewed focus on Neverland, and you're going to get to know Hook, who's a pretty good character, and so I've been happy with it overall. Steve looks like he's going to trash it.
Not trash it. I'm feeling like the Neverland thing is dragging. I don't dislike it, but...
Do we know this is going to be a full season of
I
Neverland?
hope not, because I'm ready for it to end.
Well, the season is going to be broken up into, I think, 11 and 11.
Oh, really?
So fall is going to be 11 episodes, and I think they're going to take a long break and bring it back in the spring for 11 episodes. So I'm guessing this is going to be at least 11 episodes.
I definitely like the idea of Peter Pan as a villain, and Hook is sort of, he's a Shades of Grey kind of character, but he seems more heroic than Pan, for sure.
Even Tinkerbell has, a little more depth here. So I think
what I really love about Once Upon a Time is the spin that they put on the Disney characters. That you're just not getting what has traditionally been, even the Little Mermaid and all these other characters that have cropped up.
Well, the Little Mermaid hasn't cropped up yet.
Yes, she was.
No, that was a mermaid. That wasn't her.
That wasn't Ariel.
No, Ariel's going to be played by Joanna Garcia.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, but she had red hair and everything, didn't she?
Well, I don't know, maybe they dyed her hair.
No, you're right. I was wrong.
Well, another returning show that I also happened to watch today.
Was I finished? I don't know that I was finished.
Oh, man.
I just, go
ahead. I lost my thought. I don't want to talk now.
What I like, I'll conclude on this point. What I like is the focus on, what's her name? Blonde mom,
Oh yeah.
Jennifer Morrison. Is that her name?
Jennifer Morrison.
Emma
and Neil.
I just like the character development that we've been seeing with Emma and with Neil.
Yeah.
And again, I do like Regina very much. Lana Parrilla,
who may be hooking up with Robin Hood in the future.
But to me, the Robert Carlyle steals every scene that he's in.
Yes.
And every episode that has any sort of focus on Rumpelstiltskin. I just love that character. I love his portrayal.
He's one of the people that should be nominated for an Emmy,
Absolutely.
But for some reason the Emmys, like John Noble, never got nominated for
they
Fringe.
Don't like
this
genre.
is one of those, yeah.
But yeah, now I'm finished.
Well, I hope that was worth it. Another genre show that we're returning to that I just happened to watch today was Grimm. And, I think we mentioned this before. Grimm is not high concept.
It's not
here.
as highfalutin as Once Upon a Time.
It's another form of comfort food, if you will. You know what you're going to get. You know what it's about.
Yeah.
And you kind of go through the motions with these characters.
Are they all seeking redemption like Once Upon a Time in Person of Interest?
I don't think
so much.
It's
no.
just,
it's very Freak of the Week-ish.
It's the definition of Freak of the Week.
But there is an arc. There's definitely an arc.
Yeah, and they're trying to write the new arc for the season, so we'll see which way it goes. Now, speaking of shows with an arc, going back to another heavy one, which I had the opportunity to almost complete watching season 1, and that's Arrow, which just returned.
Yeah. Arrow is one of my favorites.
I was very...
Tony,
and again, I haven't finished
you
it
gotta
yet.
watch it.
I haven't finished the first season, but I'm very surprised at how good the Beast story... I love the Beast story. I love the island stuff.
The Lost part?
Yeah.
So again, flashbacks.
Yeah.
This has become a very pro-flashback show.
It has, yeah.
So tell us about it, Steve.
Well, on prior shows, I've talked about the fact that if anything comes on that's superhero related, I feel compelled to watch it. And actually, Green Arrow is one of my favorite DC heroes. And it was funny because the portrayal of him in Smallville wasn't necessarily to my liking. It wasn't terrible.
But Smallville also had a different flavor. It was brighter. It was cheerier.
Yeah.
This is a dark show, and that's
and
right up my alley.
And this is more in keeping with the Green Arrow character and the Green Arrow mythos. And it is really, the first season, it just hit the ground running.
There's less of the 90210 stuff going on.
Whenever they get CW-ish, I get kind of like,
yeah.
But in general, there is that element. But in general, it's a very dark show. And there is redemption involved. Oliver is looking for redemption.
His whole arc.
He was the prototypical, playboy. And he, was really doing everything wrong before he was marooned on this island. And that...
Not only was he was a playboy, but he wasn't like suave. He wasn't like Bruce Wayne. He was just a slob jerk.
Dirtbag. Yeah, he was a real scumbag.
Dirtbag, yeah.
Brought his girlfriend's sister on that trip, and she ends up dying. And
that's what I also like. Whenever they do these flashbacks, you get to see what a jerk.
Yeah,
and he even looked like a jerk.
Yeah,
they messed
smug.
with his hair and stuff.
Yeah, he was very smug. But
it's almost like he's playing two characters.
Mm-hmm. So the first season, was all about him cleaning up the city because he believed that his father, had this list of these bad people who were causing the city to, fall into ruin. And it turns out it wasn't all so cut and dry by the end. And now he's sort of rededicated himself to being a hero. And it's really coming closer and closer. Yes, he's already Green Arrow, but, to the portrayal of him in the comic, and they're bringing in so many elements from the comic. And again, yes, Tony, it is inside baseball, but I love that stuff. We have Roy Harper, who is the kid, who's wearing red, and he wants to be his partner. Well, he does become his partner in the comic. He is Speedy, his sidekick, his Robin. And they're bringing in the Black Canary, which is also kind of confusing because Laurel, his girlfriend, that's the identity of the Black Canary. So now they're bringing in another Black Canary.
They might pull something.
Yeah, there's going to be like some sort of a Texas switch going on. But I just think it's a terrific show, highest possible recommendation. Even if you don't like superheroes. My wife likes it. And if there's anybody who can't be bothered with genre, it's my wife. I think she just likes him because of his abs. But any reason that she'll sit and watch it with me,
you'll be satisfied.
But yeah, I love it, and I really think, Tony, at whatever point
I will.
You need
as soon as I finish Breaking Bad on Netflix, I'll start on Arrow.
All right, good.
Good, but I think we have a good mix here, not only of new shows that we're kind of tipping into them a little bit, and there's some future ones coming, and I'm sure there's going to be the mid-year shows that come like around December or January that we haven't even touched upon yet. And we have the regular shows that we're still trying to keep up with.
Survivor, man.
That's not very genre, Tony.
Don't even mention it.
It's a genre.
You want to do a reality show, do it with
him.
him.
It's a genre. It's not this genre, but it's a genre.
Well, on behalf of Tony and Steve, I would like to thank everyone for joining us today, and we will see you here next time. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir.
On Geek Fest Rants. Bye-bye, everybody.
I come to your house, break down the door, gun unchanging.
You are a man of secrets, Mr. Grayson.
I know what it's like to live as an outcast.
Thou art condemned to endless night.
This Friday, a legend will be reborn.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Alexander Grayson.
Sometimes, people and places we are meant for take us by surprise.
Critics say this isn't your daddy's Dracula.
I will have my vengeance. Dracula.
The casting is genius.
I do find your company on occasion most agreeable.
Thank you.
It's sex, style, mystery, and adventure all around.
My wife died 4 centuries ago. She has been born again. Look me in the eyes.
How dare you?
We could always use some fresh blood.
Jonathan Rhys-Meyers in Dracula. Premieres this Friday after the Grimm season premiere on NBC.
Stop! That's not funny.
Was I finished? I don't know that I was finished.